Hello there. I'm Jago Wainwright, the writer and director of the WOODSMAN'S Respite, starring Barnaby Evans, Saul Bailey, Oscar Matthews, and Holly Jones. There's not that much I can tell you about the play without spoiling a bit of the plot, but all I will say is you're in for some 1940s boarding school spookiness, as you can tell from the black and white going on here. Just some content warnings before we begin. This show does include various mentions of death and war, along with alcohol use. Anyway, I very much hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let us begin.
My name is Alexander Lapwing. I have in many ways lived a charmed life, and now pass my days in blissful comfort, surrounded by my beautiful children and grandchildren. Yet I am under no illusions about my advancing years. I know that my time here will soon be up, so I am given to rather morbid thoughts these days. In particular, one incident of my youth keeps returning to me, an incident so bizarre and foreboding that I feel compelled to finally put pen to paper and write this account. On the 4th of March, 1947, the eve of my 16th birthday, I was shacked up in my dorm room at Culperton Manor Boarding School as a blizzard raged outside, just like every day during that beastly, endless winter. Fortunately, my Uncle Roger had bribed his contacts in the staff to smuggle in some bottles of whiskey for the occasion, and I planned to make good use of them. My friend Stebbings, however, was not so keen. "Come on, Stebbers, it's not every day we get so much to drink."
Well, I just don't know, Lapwing. It'll warm us up, I suppose. But is it really worth it? Won't the masters hear us?
Oh, come on, Stebbings. It's his birthday. And besides, it's Sunday. All the masters have gone home. Only Marlowe is left. And that old fool wouldn't hurt a fly. I doubt he'll even hear us.
Well, if you say so.
The three of us bundled into my room. Others could hear the fun we were having, and within minutes quite a crowd had gathered. The whiskey flowed freely, and before too long we all tipped over into drunken laughter and raucous antics. But, inevitably, a few hours into our celebration, the dreaded sound rang out.
Oh, no! I told you, didn't I?
Oh, go on, Lapwing. Answer it. It'll just be old Marlowe. You can probably convince him to join the fun.
It will do. Dr Marwolaeth was a dull but kind master, so we boys both hated his lessons and incessantly mocked him, since he never punished us. With all the confidence in the world, I opened the door and came face to face with the old doctor. His craggy face was deeply creased in anger, but I, arrogant and drunk as I was totally unfazed.
"Now, young sapling, what's all this?"
"Oh, nothing much, sir. Just a little something for my birthday. Go on, want to have a bit yourself?"
"Control yourself, sapling. You know the rules. Hand over those bottles at once."
"Oh, come on, sir. We've been freezing our arses off for months. Surely you can let this little party slide. Or have you become a total Scrooge in your old age?"
I fail to see how my age alone likens me to that particular Dickensian character. Now give me those.
"Oh, sod off. Look at you. You probably knew Dickens personally, you crusty fossil. Go on, retire. You know you want to. Leave us be."
Pipe down, Lapwing!
What? Cat got your tongue? At least that's a change from how you drone on and on in lessons. Oh, Renaissance this, Shakespeare that, blah, blah, blah. You think you're so bloody clever, but guess what? Over an entire year, you've never once said my name right. It's Lapwing, you bloody idiot, not Sapling. But to my surprise, the doctor didn't say anything in response. He just stood, stock still, and stared at me. That stare, well, it defies description. His blue eyes took on a darker hue, and the skin around them twitched with a strange energy. A piercing gaze shot from them, bore deep into my eyes, and seemed to turn my blood to ice, utterly rooting me to the spot. I lost every ounce of my bluster, and began to physically cower. Thus the tables turned, and all at once I became the laughingstock of my friends.
Oi, oi! Seems you're all mouth and no trousers, Lapwing.
Enough! My study, sapling. Immediately. I'll deal with the rest of you later.
drunk as I was, I started to recognize that I was in serious trouble, and that stare was more than enough to scare me into submission. Yes, sir.
Mind he doesn't clip your wings, Lapwing.
In here, sit. It is clear, Sapling, that you and your peers have little to no respect for me. But believe me, had you encountered me before I taught here, your opinion of me would be vastly different. I would have...
Marwolaeth sunk back into his chair, gazing off into the middle distance. He remained in this trance for what seemed like minutes. I half-heartedly wondered if he had expired on the spot, and began to get up to escape, but...
No, Sapling, stay. Contrary to what you and your friends believe, I'm not some senile old relic. I am simply more given to melancholy contemplation than most. But now, at least, I will no longer have to put up with your insolence.
What do you mean, sir?
As of this moment, I am no longer your English teacher. I have decided to resign with immediate effect.
But... why? I didn't really mean... I never thought...
It is not, well, not entirely your doing, Sapling.
Then why leave so suddenly? We do make fun, sir, but really, we...
Well, spare me your false pity. I know that here, just as elsewhere, I am mocked and despised in spite of the crucial work I do. And as to that why, well, I doubt you'll truly understand, but I suppose there's little harm in telling you. Did your father fight in the last war?
Yes, sir.
When he returned, did he seem different at all? More reserved, more paranoid after his experiences?
Well, of course, sir. Who wouldn't be?
Indeed. In that case, you may at least partly understand what I have to say. You see, I too was involved in the war, and in quite a significant capacity.
He seemed to me far too old to have fought, so my first thought was that he was lying. But what he said next was said with such grave sincerity that he must have experienced the horrors of war firsthand.
Coping with all the memories of what I saw, what I did, has been extremely difficult, to say the least. I was somewhat overworked during the war, and in a role which no mortal man would envy. The sight of death is far from new to me, but there was something different about those years. Something far more systematic, mechanized, inhuman. The war machines, the camps, the battlefields from Morocco to Russia, and to think the last one was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Millions upon millions dead. There was a time, young sapling, when wars only claimed tens of thousands of lives. Even that figure is difficult to truly comprehend, is it not? When every single one of those tens of thousands of people had their own unique personalities, their own visions of the future, their own hopes and dreams.
Yes, sir.
Any one of those people could have transformed society, could have run in the Olympics or excelled on the stage, could have lived to the age of 112. But enough of this place. My duties beckon, and I have tarried here for long enough already.
At this, the doctor stood and stalked over to his wardrobe, flinging the doors wide to reveal a long black cloak and hood hanging within, although I could see no hanger.
The way you insulted me earlier, young sapling, reminded me of my true purpose. I came here for some respite, to do some good after all the dire work I've done for so long. But in the end, I do not belong here. Before taking up my post here, I worked as a woodsman, felling trees. Now I shall return to that occupation, monotonous though it is. I will no longer have to contend with feeling so powerless, so easily humiliated and disregarded, even by the likes of you.
In one swift motion, he pulled out the cloak and swung it over his shoulders. As he turned to leave, though, I was seized by a pang of regret. Had I prompted him to resign on the spot? Had I somehow reawakened his traumatic memories of the war? Sir, about what I said earlier, it really was just meant as a joke. You've been nothing but kind these past few years. It's just...
It's just that it's easy to make fun of a fool like me, eh? A fool who thinks that despite his destiny, that despite his lifelong God-given calling, he can still do some good in the world. Well, no longer. Fare thee well, sapling.
But, sir, you can't just up and leave like this.
As I said, I have to return to my calling, as should you in time. Do what you will with your life, for eventually the woodsman's axe comes for all.
Sir! Without another word, Dr Marwolaeth trudged outside and was swallowed by the snowstorm within seconds. I never saw him again, nor did anyone else at Culperton Manor. Sir. But every time I find myself coughing profusely, or struggling to move as I used to, my thoughts return to him and his sinister warning. I suspect that, before too long, we will meet again.
You've been listening to The Woodsman's Respite, written and directed by Jago Wainwright, starring Saul Bailey as Alexander Lapwing, Barnaby Evans as Dr Marwolaeth, Oscar Matthews-Martinez as Stebbings, and Holly Jones as Trumble, released as part of the Marlowe Society's Hatch lineup. Do go check out our other shows, and thanks for listening.